Hello and welcome to this SPSS one-on-one series with Owori Analytics. If you want to categorize your numeric variable or to compute a new variable from existing variables, or you want to change how you coded your variables, this is the right video for you. So let's get started. When you open SPSS, you're going to see the welcome dialog box. We are not interested in this for now, just close it. If you don't have it, still it is okay. In this session, we are going to use a free dataset that comes pre-installed with SPSS. To get this dataset, simply go to File, Open Data, and then look for the installation folder for SPSS. Usually, it is under this PC, then local disk C, and then look for program files. Sometimes, for other people, it is under program files in brackets times 80. Mine is under program files. Then look for a folder called IBM. Open it, and then you'll see SPSS. Again, open that folder SPSS. There is statistics. Go ahead and open it, and then you'll see I'm seeing here 27. That's the version I'm seeing. Then for you, you will see the number or the version of SPSS that you are using. So go ahead and click on that and locate the folder called samples. Samples here, open it, and then select the preferred language or the language you're using. I'm going to double click on English, and there are the datasets. There are a bunch of datasets that you can use for the different analysis and your learning. So in this session, we are going to use a dataset called ADL. So if I click on it once, the file name comes in. You can see the extension is SAV, meaning it is an SPSS file. So click on Open, and you will be able to see your dataset. Now, there are two windows that we have to first clarify on the windows we are going to use. Number one is the data editor window, which is the one you are seeing right now. But there is also another window called the output. If you put your mouse on the icon of SPSS in your taskbar, you will see that there are two windows open here. There is one called ADL SFV, that's the dataset in the data editor window, and there is one called output 1. So click on output 1. So this is the other window that we are also going to be working with. For now, minimize it and go back to the data editor window. In this data editor window, you can see that we have got data view and then the variable view. When I click on variable view, you can see the different variables we do have. We have 14 variables in this data set. Whereas when I look at the data view, we have our 14 variables displayed from left to right. Then we have our participants or observations from number 1. I can use the scroll button here to 100. So there are 100 observations and 14 variables. First things first, how do I move variables around? We see that we have 14 variables, but if maybe I wanted group to be somewhere after diabetic, if I click on group, you will see that is highlighted. So I'll click and grab, then I release it just after diabetic. You'll see a red line against where that variable is going to be inserted. If I release, you'll see that group has moved from where it was to another location. That's very, very important whenever you're doing analysis. Sometimes you want some variables to be together to simplify your analysis. So it's just a matter of grab, move, and release. So I'm going to undo this so that we have the original data set. That's number one. Number two, now here is the thing. You really have to be familiar with how to change from the variable view to the data view. First thing, you can just click and see, I click on variable view, I see my variables here. Data view, I go to my data. This is very important, especially when you're learning SPSS and you may get confused with these windows. You want to look for characteristics of a variable, but you are in a wrong window. So be familiar with variable view and data view. The other way that you can go straight to a variable from data view to variable view is by just double clicking on the name of the variable. If I double click here, it will take me straight to variable view, but for that particular variable. In a similar way, when you are under the variable view, you want to go back to the data view. Simply click on the number of that variable. This is variable number 2. If I double click on it, it takes me back to the data view, but highlighting that particular variable. Another important thing here is if you look at your screen right now, you're seeing just numbers 0 to 9, but these, for some variables, these are codes meaning something else. There is this icon here with a 1 and a capital A kind of branched. When I put a cursor over it, you see variables. Every time you click on it, it shows the values. Again, if I click on it, it shows the labels. In that way, you can look at the values and the labels by simply clicking on that icon, this one here. The first transformation we are going to make is that of age. When you look at our age here, if I want to see the characteristics of age, just double click on it. I can see that age here, it has now gone to variable view. It is a numeric variable, with 2 decimal places, and then the label, this is patient age. Values, it is not defined because it is numeric. However, you would wish to categorize this age. I just want to go back to data view. I would like to categorize this age. For instance, I want to make 3 groups out of this age. We want to create a group that is below 70, 71 to 80 years, and also above 80. We want to form a categorical variable out of this numerical variable age. To do that, it is very simple. Go to transform, and we are going to do what we call record a variable. Now, there are 2 options for recording variables. There is one for recording to same variable, meaning it will just replace whatever is here, it replaces it with the code you're giving it. But we also have record into different variables. In this way, it does not replace this, but instead it creates another variable with the new codings. So let's see what we mean. For now, I'm going to choose record into different variables. This is very useful. I highly recommend this when you're starting SPSS because you won't lose data. You will still maintain your original variable, so that in case you want to make any other new categories, if the ones you've made do not make sense to you, you can still, you have your original variable that you can now again make any other new variables you want. If I click there, we are going to define the input variable. Which variable do you want to change? We want to change one called age. Put it there. It will give you an arrow and a question mark, meaning you have to specify the numeric variable you are going to transform and the output variable, like what name are you giving to the new variable that is coming out of age. So we are going to call this age group. Remember, we do not, SPSS doesn't tolerate spaces in the name of the variable. The label, you can still say age group. Then you have to click on change so that the question mark is replaced by your age group. Click change, and now we are transforming a variable called age to age. Secondly, we have to now define what are the old values and what are the new values. Click on that, this dialog box will open, and in this, you see it is divided into 2 parts. There is one called old value and then new values. And there are several options for specifying what an old value is. In this case, we want to create 3 categories. we want the first category being less than 70. So this is the most appropriate I would use. I'm going to choose a range from the lowest value up to a value that I'm specifying. So I will select this, and then I want from the lowest value in that data set to 70. The new value for that is going to be a 1. Less than 70 is going to be a 1. I add, so it is showing me that anything from the lowest to through 70 is going to be assigned a 1. Our next category is going to be 71 to 80. There is this option of range. I can specify from 71 to 80. And I'm going to give this a 2. Lastly, we are having a category of above 80. So there is this option of also a range from a certain value that you're specifying to the highest value available in that data set. So I'm going to say anything if the previous one ended at 80, so we are having 81 up to the highest value. I will also call this a 3 and add. Then continue. I can say OK. So this is our first time to interact with the output window. It is basically visualizing for us what we are doing. It is telling us we have this data set in this location of our computer, and this is what we've done. We have recorded age, lowest through 70, we are giving it a 1, 70 to 80, we are giving it a 2, and 81 through the highest into a group which we've called age group with the label age group. As simple as that. So these are two separate windows which we save separately. So I want to minimize this and go back to our data editor window. When you look towards the extreme end of your data set, you will see that, we have a new variable called age group created from age. Now I want to move this variable closer. I can just grab this and bring it until the red line is against age. I release. So you can see, we said anything below 70 is a 1. This is 67, that's a 1. Anything which was 71 to 80 was a 2. This is a 2. This is 73, also a 2. Anything above 80, we're giving it a 3. Do we have any? Above 80, you can see here we have 81. It is being given a 3. Next thing is to go back to your variable views and then label those values. If you can see age group, it is here, but it does not have values, because if we go back to the data view, even if I click on this icon to move between values and labels, for age group, it does not change, see, because it is not yet defined. So I got back to variable view. For this age group, under values, make 1, we said 70 years and below. I add. Number 3 was above 80. Add, and I say OK. So when I go back to data view, if I click on that variable, on that icon, I can see that now I can change between the values and the labels. Next thing is, let's look at how to compute a variable. For instance, if we look at LOS under variable view, LOS here, it was called hospital. I hope this is length of stay, and we are assuming this hospital length of stay is in months, and we want to convert this to years. If you want to convert something to years, months to years, then you have to divide by 12. So in that way, it is very simple. Let's look at how to do it. Simply go to transform, and we are going to use the option of compute variable. when you compute variable, they are going to ask you a target variable. What is the name of the new variable that you are computing? In this case, we are calling it length. We are calling it length in years. Okay, let me just call it length. That's the name of the variable. Space is not allowed, but I can specify the type and label. Label, I'm meaning length in years. And I can say continue. The expression, this is where I specify how are you going to compute that variable. On your left side of this box, you have all the variables in your data set. So you can use the variables. We have here the expression, what we can use to write the expression. We also have functional groups here. The computation we want to do, it is just hospital stay, this variable here. When I click on it, you can see this arrow. It is telling me you can push the selection to the right. So I will click on it and I've pushed that variable to the right. So to compute, to convert months to years, we divide by 12. So once we've pushed our variable there, we can, this is just like a calculator, it is that variable divided by 12. Once you're done with that, you just say okay. And it is telling you here in your output that the variable you are computing, a variable called length, which is a certain variable LOS over 12. And when we see here, variables are always at the extreme right of your data set. So length is here. Still, I want to grab this length and then bring it, I want to bring it here next to the original variable, so that we see 18 is just 1.5 years. We have, it has been computed well. So that's one way of computing. Sometimes you may just have wanted to, or you wanted to get some of your variables. If I look at my data set, I want to know maybe if I add, let me just first move this variable away. I want to know the sum. I want to create a new variable that sums up these three variables here. So I'm going to use the sum function. So still under transform, compute. Whenever SPSS will always remember what you did last, there is a button for reset here. It clears all the memory so that you can start afresh. So we have a target variable which we want to see sum, or we want to just call it total. And that total will be a sum of something, or a sum of certain variables here. So under functions group, I'm going to look for one called, we have statistical here. When you click statistical, you will see there are several statistical functions you can use. You can get the minimum values, the standard deviation, sum, variance. I want to get the sum. If I click on sum, you will see this arrow telling me you can push this function in the numeric creation box. So I'll push it up there and it will tell me for you to sum, you should at least have more than one items. If you are adding something, those are the two question marks you're seeing here, separated by a comma. So just remove that question mark and put the variable that you want to create the sum. Maybe I want to create, you wanted to add age. Make sure if you're adding, you have to be adding a numeric variable. We are adding age to length of stay. Even if you have 20, you would just put all of them here, keep separating with a comma, and then press OK. Then the output will tell you what you're doing. If I minimize this and then we see here at the end we have total, and I want to just bring it near here so that we see. Yeah, come closer. Yeah, so we have here 67 plus 18, is it 85? Yes, so it has computed everything well for you. You have a new variable that you can now use. Super easy. Next, I want us to look at how can you record a variable that has been already given codes, but you want to change those codes. What we want to do in this example, when you look at our variable called travel ADL, and we want to look at the values. To see the values, just click in it, and then the 3 dots against the box, you can see how it is coded. In this example, we want to create a new variable, or we want to change this coding. And the way we want to change it, we want to leave this category alone for 0, same as before, but we somehow think maybe option 2 gets out, and the third option coded 2, they kinda should be collapsed together, and also option 3 and 4 should be collapsed together. So let's see how to do that. We want to create 3 groups out of these 5 groups. So simple. Still go back to transform. You can use, as we saw before, record into same variable or record into a different variable. So record into different variable, and then as usual reset this so that you have a clean box. The first thing we have to do, define the input variable. We are going to record a variable called travel, and travel we are going to call it new travel, maybe, okay, travel 2. We are giving it a new name called travel 2. So under travel 2, for the label you can give it maybe categorized travel. Change this, then define the new and old variables. Just like before, this is the same window we've used. Number 1, so a 0, we are telling SPSS that is going to remain a 0 in our new variable. A 1 is also going to remain a 1. I add. A 2 is going to be collapsed together with a 1. So a 2 is going to change to 1. When it comes to 3 and 4, we are also going to collapse them to another group, and we give it a code of, so far we've given 0, 1, we are giving a code of 2 to 1, which was coded 3 and 4. We could as well put here a 3 is equal to a 2, or we can even also use the range, because we have from 3 to 4, we are giving it a value of 2. Then we add. It would still be the same thing if we put here a value of give a 3 to a 2, give a 4 to a 2, and then we say continue. Click OK. Then it will tell you what you've just done. You can review here whether what you did was right or you need to make any change. Then minimize this, go back to your data view. To the extreme end, you can see everything here has been changed. Okay, but as usual, you can go back and define so that if I click here, it can change between values and their labels. So in this episode, we've looked at the different ways of transforming our data. So in our next episode, that's when we start the analysis of data using SPSS, and we are looking at descriptive analysis in our next episode and how you can use descriptive analysis for data cleaning. Consider liking the videos and subscribing to Owori Analytics so that you do not miss any of our episodes. See you in the next video.